Today folks, we are comparing the current lineup of Insta360 cameras. The Insta360 X3, the Insta360 RS, and the Insta360 RS 1-inch 360 edition. I've been out on my bike with all kinds of accessories using these cameras for all kinds of purposes. The ability to shoot first, reframe later in 360 mode continues to excite me to this day, and in terms of more traditional standard action camera filming, we have a bunch of different options here with these three cameras. It's a little tricky to decipher all the specifications of these cameras, so do go ahead and grab yourself a copy of our Insta360 comparison chart so you can see which camera is best suited to your needs. You might want to cover your ears for this one. Oh my goodness, that hurts. Luckily we've got it from another angle. Let's start off by looking at the performance of these cameras at shooting 360 photo and video. If we're talking about dedicated 360 video performance, the 1-inch edition RS will of course give you a better image quality with those 1-inch sensors. We're not just talking about low light performance here, we're talking about full daylight performance as well. The image is lower noise, and that makes a big difference when we're cropping in and reframing our shots. Here we have the three cameras set to 360-degree video mode. They all produce a good image, but when we punch in, we definitely see a sharper image from the X3 and the 1-inch 360-degree edition. Like I say, the image quality of all three cameras is good, but the newer technology and bigger sensor sizes of the X3 and the 1-inch 360-degree edition do bring benefits. In terms of photos, the 21.3 megapixel 360 2x1 equirectangular photos that we get from the 1-inch edition are the best. Again, we're taking advantage of that low noise, bigger sensor. This 1-inch edition 360 RS is a natural choice for professionals looking to do real estate tours, for example, both video and photo. They're certainly going to value that extra picture quality. Now, it makes these two cameras look relatively inexpensive, and it makes this one look kind of premium, which it is, but when we compare it with the other 1-inch sensor 360 cameras in this space that are quite often favored by real estate tour professionals, this one looks rather inexpensive, and I have to say the video specifications of this camera tend to laugh at those other options. Now, coming back to this comparison, on the photo side, all three cameras take bracketed HDR RAW photos, so you can get outstanding performance from all of these cameras in very extreme contrast situations. So we're talking about real estate photos. Again, the interior is dark, the outside is bright. You can composite all those photos together and get a nice exposure for the outside and for the inside. Regardless, the one-click pure shot composites that we get here on the 1-inch edition 360 are the best in class. So for high-end photography work, this camera is certainly the top pick. For 360 video work, yes, the 1-inch edition is the best performing camera, but in exchange for slightly less performance, the X3 and the RS offer so much more versatility that is going to probably appeal to the majority of users, starting with dedicated single lens shooting modes, traditional action camera stuff, if you will. The 1-inch edition 360 camera is a dedicated 360 camera. It does not have a single lens shooting mode for your traditional 4K footage. Now, by comparison, these two do. They achieve it in very different ways, however. The RS is modular. We have the option of a traditional 4K boost lens, as it's called, and we also have this 1-inch wide angle module. That's a 1-inch sensor in there, half-inch sensor in the boost lens. By comparison, the X3 has a single lens mode. It takes one of the 360 lenses, chops those pixels up a little bit and gives you a 4K crop from the center, and it gives you a very acceptable image. On the left here, we've got the RS 1-inch module shooting 5.3K, and on the right, we've got the X3 with its single lens shooting at 4K. Now, in this example, you're going to struggle to tell the difference. So if we crop in a little bit, the quality of the dedicated action lens becomes a bit more apparent. I have to say the performance of the X3 single lens is really quite good here in the center of the image. If we move out to the side of the image, things get a little bit softer, but nonetheless, in good lighting conditions, you can certainly get get by with the single lens mode of the X3. For best image quality, we'd recommend you stick with the wide or the ultra-wide field of view options that are given for the single lens mode on the X3. Because we're asking one of these cameras to do something it essentially wasn't designed for, it's best to use a field of view that gives you the least distortion possible. There's also quite a disparity in terms of resolution and frame rates. With the X3's single lens mode, we peak at 4K 30. Now, by comparison, if we go to the dedicated action camera lenses here, starting with the 4K boost lens, we get a 6K widescreen option at 24 or 25 frames per second. Now dropping down to more traditional 4K 16:9, we get all the way up to 60 frames per second. The 1-inch sensor lens module offers us 5.3K up to 30 frames per second and also 4K 60. If traditional format action camera filming is your priority, then obviously the pick of the bunch is the RS. If on the other hand you want the option of shooting decent traditional action camera footage, then the X3 is a good option. It's a good bit cheaper at about $450 or so, and we do get an upgrade in performance from the 360 side of things. In 360 video shooting configuration, all three cameras offer the same incredible 6-axis electronic image stabilization. This is definitely one of the big selling points of this entire 360 system, especially if you've not experienced it yet. The stabilization is mind-blowing. For non-360 traditional action camera footage, both the X3 and the RS action camera lenses offer in-camera electronic image stabilization, just as you'd expect from an action camera these days. We found the stabilization to be very good on both systems. All of the point of view shots that we filmed on the RS were done with the basic in-camera electronic image stabilization. Now there is another option to shoot in Pro mode, and then you can take the footage into the Insta360 desktop studio app and stabilize with flow state in post. For regular daytime footage, I have to say I didn't really find that was necessary to do. The in-camera performance was very good. In terms of low-light performance, the dedicated action camera lenses on the RS, the 1-inch module in particular, eclipsed the performance of the single lens mode on the X3. Here's some footage shot at higher ISOs with the 1-inch module, and trust me, that just wouldn't have been a conversation worth having with the X3 single lens mode. For small cameras like these, depending on the user, the sensor size, low light performance, all that kind of stuff isn't necessarily the most important criteria in this conversation. The X3 has an absolutely enormous 2.29-inch full-color touchscreen. It's a joy to use by any action camera standards, believe me on that one. By comparison, these RS modules, they have small 1-inch touchscreens. They're functional, but they are a little bit footery. The image quality is nothing like that on the X3, so it's not necessarily representative of what you get back when you look at the footage on your computer, and by comparison, they just seem a little bit dated. The X3 is waterproof to 10 meters. We get 5 meters here with the RS, and we have splash proof with the 1-inch Edition 360 module. This isn't an action camera at the end of the day. We've put it in action scenarios to take advantage of that nice picture quality. But at the end of the day, for your action camera purposes, you really want to be looking at these two. In terms of weight, given the significance of the invisible selfie stick in this 360 system, the lighter the better, especially if you're using the 3-meter extended selfie stick. If there's a bit of a kink in it, you're going to see that in the shot. It becomes a little bit less invisible. Being the newest camera here, the X3 is the only one to have active HDR in 360 video shooting mode. Now, the RS has standard HDR in its 360 shooting mode, which is fine for stationary shots, but when we have a moving camera or moving subjects, we don't want to see that ghosting that you can get with HDR video. So active HDR, we found, does a pretty great job of bringing back a lot of detail in the sky, especially if there's a sun in the sky, for example. It can get really nice results in a nice bright environment. Now, just confusing matters slightly, the RS does give you active HDR if you use the 4K boost lens in the traditional action camera format. As for functionality and ease of use, both of these cameras have the 1/4-20 threaded screw built into the bodies of the units themselves. For the RS here, you need to put it in a cage to get access to that mounting option. Different cameras have different purposes, and I don't know what your purpose is, and I don't know how much money you've got. That's an important factor, obviously. But for me, the X3 probably has to be the pick of the bunch because it's a dedicated 360 camera that gets the job done really, really well on the 360 side, and then you've got the option of that single lens traditional 4K footage if you wish. If I was a professional looking to make money out of my 360 photos or video, then of course I'd be looking at the 1-inch 360 edition right here. If I didn't have any cameras, then I'd probably be looking at the RS, because it does represent very good value, having that modularity to switch between the two modes of shooting. Please do leave your comments below. Lots of experience to share with the group. We can all learn from each other, and we will see you next time.